Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my first trimester recap of this twin pregnancy. I've been taking notes kind of as I went along week by week to do a video like this and just share with you guys like my first trimester experience, symptoms. If you are new here, I do already have a video out all about how we found out we were pregnant with twins. That includes vlog footage from our first appointment and everything like that. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll put it up here. But for now, let's just get into the rest of the video. So I'm gonna keep my phone with me because like I said, I have notes. If I don't write it down, I will forget that I wanna talk about it. I'll do one of these videos for each trimester too. I may even start doing them more frequently, like maybe every couple weeks or so as things pick up and change. Let me know what you guys would prefer. If you'd like a trimester or if you'd like weekly updates. I think I've done both in the past for pregnancies. This time, since we kept it a secret for so much of the first trimester, I just thought I would do one video to recap kind of the whole first trimester. Also, don't mind me sipping on water the whole time. Love these Stanley cups. By the way, when I redo my pregnancy essentials this time around, because I definitely will, the 40 ounce will be on there. First, I should show you my bump. So as I'm filming this, I'm 16 weeks pregnant, so I'm a little bit further than past the first trimester, but let me tell you, I showed quickly this time around. Literally at 6.5 weeks pregnant, I had like such a round bump already. I don't know if it's bloat, I don't know if it's because there's two babies in there. I don't overthink like the reason behind it too much. Feel like when you're pregnant and you say things like I'm showing, you quickly have people shooting you down and saying like that's just bloat. And it's like, well, I wouldn't be bloating if I wasn't pregnant, at least this much, unless I ate like fettuccine Alfredo or something. But you know, you're bloating for a reason. So to me, it's all the same. I started showing super early. And now, this is my bump now with two babies in there. Feeling large and in charge already. So yeah, by 6.5 weeks pregnant, I had a pretty nice little bump there already. And by 10 weeks, when we took our announcement photos, my belly was like fully popping, like fully present. Our photographer friend who did them for us, she even was like, oh yeah, you are for sure pregnant. Like you can tell, which is always really nice when you're early pregnant and people tell you that like, you know, they think you look pregnant. It's reassuring in a way. So anyways, the very first note I have written down is that weeks 6 and 7, I was feeling the worst. So at this point, we did not know it was twins. At 6.5 weeks, like I said, when I first started popping a little bit, we didn't know it was twins. And I remember talking to my friends. I actually sent them a picture of my belly in the mirror and I was like, I'm 6 weeks pregnant. Like, how am I this big already? And at the time I was thinking like, well, this is my 3rd baby. This is my 4th time being pregnant. This is my 4th time being 6.5 weeks pregnant. Maybe that's why I'm showing so much. As that week started progressing further, 6 and 7 weeks, I just felt so sick. Like I had what felt like every pregnancy symptom in the book. And they were all very intense, like way sicker than I felt with either of my boys. And I didn't know if maybe like in my head, I was thinking like, well, maybe I'm just extra sick because I'm having a girl this time. And you always hear you get sicker with girls. And I don't know what it feels like to be pregnant with a girl. So maybe that's what it is. And I wrote down some of the symptoms I was having at this point were headaches, nausea, increased hunger, exhaustion, heartburn, sensitive smells, food aversion, 10 times worse than past pregnancies. I wrote that down at the time. The headaches were really bad for me. They would get so intense that I would actually like ice my forehead at times because it just felt like there was no relief. And you know, I'd take Tylenol, but there's not a whole lot you can do when you're pregnant. There's not a whole lot you can take. So I was using like ice rollers. I was putting ice packs on my forehead to deal with the headaches. The exhaustion was like another level. Like I would just lay on the couch all day long. And the thing that really got me was the nausea. I am not somebody who typically has like super intense morning sickness. I tend to get nauseous a little bit around 6-7 weeks and then it lightens up, and it did not lighten up this time. And it was all day. Like I told my husband it was like all day sickness. It was morning sickness, it was afternoon sickness, and it was night sickness. And it was worse in the mornings and in the evenings. Sometimes in the evening it was so bad I couldn't fall asleep. I had to keep rice cakes and chips next to the bed just so that I could eat dry foods and get myself like comfortable and not nauseous enough to fall asleep in the evenings. But it was just like constant, and I never actually threw up. Once I did, like further along, I think I was like 13 weeks or something, kind of randomly. But in the past, I've never thrown up during pregnancies, and I didn't this time either until that one random time. But I just was like, it felt like nothing I had felt before, and it felt like I said, all day long and for weeks and weeks, not just the very beginning. So we had the appointment at 8 weeks. I think I was 8 weeks in one day. And leading up to the appointment, we were having conversations joking, like, what if it's twins? And Jordan would be like, we'll end up with 3 or 4 kids, we'll find out. And we just started to actually think like, no, for real, like what if it's twins? Because what if that's why I'm showing so much already? What if that's why I'm so sick? And when we went to the very first appointment and we actually saw it was twins, it totally made sense. Like we definitely had that moment of shock that you hear about where we were like, holy crap, there's 2. But we both had this feeling of, we knew it, this made sense, okay, we really are pregnant with twins. Like we weren't just being, you know, dramatic. I feel like everyone, when you're pregnant early on and you haven't been to an appointment, at least for me, every pregnancy I'm like, oh, it could be twins. And you always kind of think maybe it could be until you see it up there that it's only 1. This time around, seeing that, like, I just felt so different, and seeing that it actually was 2 when we were kind of suspicious it might be 2, just felt very validating. And it also made me instantly feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, I understand why I've been so sick. Almost like I can put up with these symptoms more now, because not that I couldn't put up with them before, but it just was sort of like, now I know the logic behind them. I know why it's so bad. I don't just feel like I can't handle it. Because before that I was like, man, I'm so sick. I just feel like such a wimp. Like, why can't I handle this when I've done this before, you know? So it was reassuring, and also just like, gave a little bit of peace there, so that when I did feel super sick, I knew why, and it didn't feel so like endless anymore. I also just, in the beginning, I was just so thankful to have symptoms, period. Like with my last pregnancy, my 3rd one that we ultimately ended up losing, when we started running into issues, I started losing my symptoms. And for a couple weeks there, around 6-7 weeks, I felt really sick. I, you know, was getting all the typical pregnancy symptoms, and then they started lightening up. And so going into my first appointment with that pregnancy, I was so nervous because I didn't feel nauseous. I didn't feel super sick anymore. I didn't really feel as pregnant, and it was a sign that something was wrong for me. So this time around, to be able to feel very intense symptoms consistently, I was actually really grateful for it, because I have felt pregnant this entire pregnancy. And that, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, especially, definitely not saying that's the case for every twin pregnancy or, you know, whatever. But for me in this situation, I was really thankful and like still embracing the sickness, because it was a reminder that my body was doing what it needed to do. And, you know, with all the anxiety I felt this time around, that is like a welcome reminder. Even if it's slightly miserable in the moment, I will take it 100%. I'll talk more about the pregnancy anxiety, like pregnancy after loss too, at the end of the video. First, I'm gonna kind of go week by week with just the little symptoms I had to catch you guys up. So like I said, at 8 weeks, we had our appointment. That was really fun. We left feeling just so good. Like I could cry just thinking about it. It just was so amazing and meant so much to us. And coming out of that appointment, you know, I definitely felt on edge. I still didn't know exactly what to expect for the twin pregnancy, like how many appointments I'd have, what that would look like in the weeks going forward. But, you know, I was just like, all right, we're doing the damn thing. We are having these twins, and they are fraternal twins. I should have mentioned that in the very beginning of the video, but they are fraternal twins. So they each have their own sacs, they each have their own placentas, and that's supposedly, you know, that's the safest form of twin pregnancy from what my doctors say. So I'm relieved about that and happy for that. It's pretty crazy to learn about, because they're fraternal twins, which means that their genetics, their DNA is no different than just normal siblings. So they don't have any more shared DNA than Christian and Arlo do. They just happen to be in my belly and coming out at the exact same time. So it's kind of crazy how that works. And then there's some fraternal twins, like celebrities that you hear about, who look exactly the same, or I know fraternal twins that look exactly the same. but they're fraternal, not identical. So it's a whole crazy world that, we're learning about. Around 8.5 weeks actually, so pretty early, I started getting round ligament pain. And that's like insane to me that I felt round ligament pain at 8.5 weeks, but having 2 kids and having felt that in 2 different pregnancies in the past, I knew that 100% is what it was. It was like that super sharp side pain where literally your ligaments are stretching and like doing it quickly, you're getting up and standing up, you're doing a quick motion real quick and you feel that sharp pain. And sometimes it's like I would have to pause and be like, oh, and Jordan's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just, I know that's what it is. I told my doctor I was experiencing that and he said that's normal. It's just with twins, you grow so much faster. So, and the pregnancy overall is going to be shorter. I was told 38 weeks is full term for me now instead of the typical 40 weeks. So it makes sense things are progressing quicker. I usually feel round ligament pain at like 14 or 15 weeks. And so 8.5 was like a little shocking this time, but like I said, I felt reassured that I at least knew what it was. And I didn't realize that I would feel things like that so soon in this pregnancy. So that was really interesting for me. And it's lightened up a little bit, but I definitely still get it sometimes. So 8.5 weeks till I would say 15.5 have been pretty consistent with feeling the round ligament pain at times. At 9 weeks, the sickness got pretty bad again. So it never really lightened up until I like got out of the first trimester, and that was new for me. So like I said, in my past pregnancies, and not to keep comparing them, but it's just been so different this time for me. It's like I can't help put my mind back to what I'm used to. I went into this pregnancy, when I got pregnant, I was like, you know what? 4th pregnancy, hopefully 3rd baby. I know what I'm doing. I'll know what to expect. 3rd time around the full pregnancy calendar, and I got this. And then when we found out it was twins, I was like, holy crap, I know nothing. I don't know anything about when my appointments are. I don't know what to expect for labor and delivery. I don't know what to expect for breastfeeding. I don't know what to expect for symptoms. Like it feels like I'm pregnant for the first time all over again, except double time. So it's just been so weird. Like I feel like very familiar with pregnancy, and yet at the same time, I know nothing of what I'm doing right now. So that's why I feel like in my mind, I keep comparing it. Like this time versus what I'm used to is just so different. So anyways, usually I feel sick around 6-7 weeks. It lightens up pretty much after that, which I'm really fortunate. That's not the case for most people, but that's how it usually is for me. This time, I was sick pretty much from the very beginning, like probably from 5 or 6 weeks until like 12, 13, probably more 13 weeks. Like I remember thinking, okay, I'm getting in the 2nd trimester next week. I hope I feel better by then. It really truly lasted the whole time for me. And I'm lucky that now I'm not feeling that nausea anymore. But around 9 weeks, I started getting such bad food aversions that it like kicked the sickness up another level, because at that point it wasn't just nausea I was dealing with, it was also a lack of eating. Like I really struggled with being able to eat. And even now still at 16 weeks, I'm struggling with making sure I'm getting enough food for both babies, and making sure that even when I feel like I can't eat, even when I feel like I don't have an appetite, or my stomach is feeling so tight and stretched already, like I need to eat to have enough fuel for them. And that was a big struggle around 9-10 weeks, because everything made me feel just like disgusted. Like it wasn't even like it made me sick. It was like we went grocery shopping and just being in there made me feel nauseous, made me feel so gross. Like I couldn't look at any of the food. Every food we made just seemed gross to me. Every time we ordered food, I would place an order. The food sounded like I could handle it. And by the time it got there, I would take one bite and I would have food in my mouth that I had to spit out because I couldn't even chew it and swallow it for one bite. Like it just was bad. I'm so glad that's not the case anymore, because that was rough. And I think that lasted probably a couple weeks there. It's like, even now still figuring out like what foods will actually sit with me, what foods will not gross me out is like kind of a bit of a learning curve, but during that first trimester, it was just impossible. Another thing I should have mentioned that we found out at the first appointment was that this is a high risk pregnancy. And in one of my videos, I mentioned that and someone was like, what makes it high risk? And just the fact that it's a twin pregnancy, because it's a multiples. Like, it's not my age, it's not me. It's purely the fact that there's 2 babies in there. I'm at a higher risk for preterm labor. I'm at a higher risk for complications. This pregnancy comes along with so much more monitoring. I'm going every 2 weeks right now for various appointments, like much more ultrasounds. They're already measuring my cervix to make sure it's not getting shorter or that I'm not, you know, at risk for preterm labor. And if it does start to get smaller, then I need to go on bed rest, or, you know, the different things like that. Like, there's just, it's much more hands-on, which I also am really embracing, because coming off of losing a pregnancy, like, I will take all the monitoring I can get. Like, I don't mind going in every single week to check on these babies just to make sure they're healthy and that I'm good and everything's moving along. It's like the more assistance I can get, the better I feel. So I don't mind that at all, but it is high risk. And with that, one of the things we found out at my first appointment is that I am not to work out, like, at all, pretty much. My doctor literally, I honestly, it's funny, we left the first appointment and being told I couldn't, and this is gonna sound so basic, but being told I couldn't use my Peloton was more shocking than finding out it was twins. Like, the twin thing, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. The bike, I was like, what? That's shocking. Like, that's rocking my world. I am typically someone who I work out every day or as often as I can. It's like a big part of my mental health. It's a big part of how I alleviate anxiety. And I can't do that now. And I have seen other twin parents, like on, you know, baby boards or Peloton groups or things like that, who have worked out through their twin pregnancies. And so again, I'm not the speaker of all twin mamas out there, but for me, my doctor told me not to. He said pretty much walking is like all I can do. So the lifting of weights that I was doing before, I'm not allowed to do anymore. I'm not allowed to do the spin bike or run. Anything that could be strenuous on my body and potentially put me in labor earlier, because I'm already at risk for preterm labor. I'm not to do those things, because it's sort of like, why risk it if we don't have to? And since I lost the pregnancy before this, I'm just like, I'm not even gonna risk it. I walk on the treadmill because he told me walking I can do, and so I will walk, but that's really it. I'll do yoga sometimes, or I swim, and that's kind of the extent of my working out. Like, I miss my bike so much, but I've been bookmarking and saving classes, and come spring, you know, 6 weeks postpartum, I'm ready to get back into it. But in the meantime, I'm just playing it safe, because I don't want to do anything that could potentially risk this not going smoothly after my last experience. But yeah, that was a funny, like, I felt so silly. I was like, why is this shocking me so much that I can't use my Peloton? But the twin thing, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, it was fine, because I felt so sick during the first trimester that even, like, I think I was walking maybe like once every 2 weeks, and then I would do, you know, a 20-minute walk, and I would feel exhausted for 2 days after, like even more exhausted than I normally would. I'd do a 20-minute walk, and then I'd have to take an hour-long nap after that, or it's still, that's how it is. Like, I'm just so much more tired this time around, so I don't feel the urge to work out as much physically as I did before being pregnant, but mentally, I definitely really miss it. So back to the symptoms, I kind of got off track for a little bit, but 9 weeks I had those food aversions. 11 weeks, this is gonna sound crazy too, but this is another thing that happened a little early, but at 11 weeks, I started to feel flutters, like not legit feeling the baby quite yet, or the babies, but feeling flutters. And I have a friend who had twins, same situation as us. They have 2 boys, and then they got pregnant with twins. She, out of no, like, we were talking one day about symptoms, and she brought it up on her own, and she was like, I think I start feeling these babies at like 9 weeks. Like, so if you feel them super early, don't freak out about it. And I was like, that's crazy you're saying that, because I swear I've been feeling them. You know, in the moment I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just bubbles or whatever. It can't be that, it's so early. But when she said that, it made a lot of sense, and it made me feel much less crazy. That's basically the theme of this pregnancy, is like, I feel crazy, and then I learn things that make me feel not so crazy. But yeah, I started feeling like little flutters and little, I don't know, just little motions. And even now, I haven't felt like, I felt like very light baby kicks, like the sort of popcorn feeling. I haven't felt like strong baby kicks yet, but I feel like sort of the fish flopping feeling where, you know, you can just tell there's something in your belly that's like rolling or over, or I have felt like little popcorn flutters, or, you know, the other day I felt, it feels like there's someone in there who's just like, da, 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 da. Like I felt that earlier this time than I have in the past, because there's 2 in there, which is, you know, it's just fun. And it's, again, that like reassurance that everything's okay. I'm like really welcoming that. So once I can fully feel them and differentiate them on each side and stuff like that, it's going to be much more, I don't know, peaceful, I think, than the first trimester was mentally. Okay, so here I wrote at 11.5 to 12 weeks, I finally started feeling better. So 12 weeks was when I felt like I was kind of past the nausea, past the insane ickiness of the first trimester at least. At 12 weeks, we had another ultrasound. That one was our first trimester screening, I think, which I typically would get at 13 weeks. In the past, I always had 2 ultrasounds, maybe 3 at most, but I always had the 13-week first trimester ultrasound screening and then the 20-week anatomy scan. And that was pretty much the only time I saw them fully in my past pregnancies. This time I had 12 weeks, I had 14 weeks and 16 so far. I go back at 18 for a cervix check again, and then I go back at 19 or 20 for my anatomy scan, and then it's gonna be like every couple weeks after that. So we're checking in on them a lot, but at 12 weeks, we went and we got a great picture of both babies. And you know, that was another appointment where I just left. I went into it feeling really nervous, because it felt like it had been a while since I'd seen them. It had been like a full month, and you're just sort of sitting on this information that you have 2 babies in there and just like assuming all is well. That's kind of the case with any pregnancy in the first trimester. You're just assuming it's moving along the way it should. And so to see them again and see them both in there and see them interacting a lot, at that ultrasound, it was super cool because I was so nervous. Like after last time, I get so nervous going into every appointment that there won't be a heartbeat. And this time, before we could even see or hear the heartbeats, we could see the babies in there moving at 12 weeks. And that was so reassuring to me. It just felt incredible to, as soon as they were up on the screen, they're popping and moving. And one of them kept like jumping a lot. And the other one was kicking, baby B was kicking baby A's sack, because they have different sacks. And so baby B was kicking the other one, and they're very aware of each other in there already, which is really funny to see. And they're very active already too, which kind of makes sense for the little flutters and movements I've been feeling. But that was just like an amazing appointment. We got great pictures. They were measuring perfectly, and we got to hear both heartbeats again, and it was just awesome. So that was really nice to have that at 12 weeks too. Then at 14 weeks, we went for another ultrasound. Like I said, that one was a little quicker. It wasn't quite as much of a scan. They weren't doing quite as many measurements, but we went in, we quickly got to see them again. It's crazy how much they're growing with each appointment. Like they look more and more like babies. Even at my last appointment, like they look like they're just, I mean, they're little babies in there, but you know, it's crazy how quickly you see that start to form. And around 14 weeks, I wrote down, that's when my energy started coming back. Hallelujah. That has been like the most feeling like myself again. Now I feel like I'm gonna cry. Don't mind me. The hormone, my doctor said I have more hormones this time than I have in the past. So I feel like I'm like more irritable, I'm quicker to anger, I'm quicker to cry. Like you're always a little bit quicker to do those things while pregnant, but this time it's like another level. Knowing that I'm past the first trimester, I'm kind of out of the scariest part. Like granted, anything can happen at any time. So I'm still just like, I feel like I'm still holding my breath a little bit. Like that's like what pregnancy after loss is like. Like you are just holding your breath the whole time. And I don't think I'll stop until I can actually hold them in my arms, especially having a high risk pregnancy where we're talking about things like preterm labor all the time. You know, it's scary, it's a lot. And so to be out of like that first trimester where it felt so unknown, it felt so ambiguous and scary and like potentially fleeting. And now it's like, okay, I can settle in a bit. I'm feeling better. I can focus. I feel a little bit more like myself. I have my energy. I can do things around the house, and I can enjoy my bump and it's like fun now, and I'm entering the part where it feels fun, and I know that won't be the entire time. Like everyone keeps telling me how awful it's gonna get, like when I'm bigger or when they're here. I know it's gonna be really hard at times, but for right now, we are in a period where we can just be excited, and I'm still really nervous, but I'm not quite as nervous as I was. And so I'm just sort of soaking that up while we have it. That's another thing I will mention, like being pregnant with twins, it's like your first pregnancy all over again, where you tell someone you're pregnant and they immediately are like, oh, let go of your sleep, or like, oh, you know, you're not gonna have fun anymore, you're gonna have a kid, you'll never sleep again. Like, here are all the horrible parts of parenthood, here are all the horrible parts of pregnancy, like get ready to be so uncomfortable, blah, blah. Like people love to just throw negative shit all the time. And it's like, I feel that now with the twin pregnancy too. It's like, it doesn't matter that it's my third and fourth baby. It's like, because it's new territory, people really like to kind of give the scary. And I know there's a lot of people that it's not meant, you know, usually it's not meant from a bad place. It's meant from a like, I'm trying to give you reality kind of place, or I'm trying to be there for you or be honest with you. Like it's always coming from a good place, but it can definitely be overwhelming, and it can be easy to like only hear the horrible things. So after losing the last one, this time I'm like really just trying to like soak up the good, you know, and I know it's gonna get hard. Like we've done the baby thing a couple times, and I know there's gonna be times where we're like, how are we going to manage this? And for right now, we're just still kind of in the bubble. So I'm just living in the bubble. Like ignorance is bliss a bit right now, and I'm okay with that, because it feels like we haven't felt bliss in the pregnancy space in a while, you know? So I'm just like soaking up the bliss, and we'll see. I'm sure these updates will get much more gritty with how uncomfortable I get. But for now, I'm doing it pretty good. I'm just like feeling good. I am definitely feeling big already. I'm getting ready to bust out my body pillow. But overall, we're just super happy. And like I said, to be out of like the scariest phase, it's sort of like no matter what people tell me, they can't deny me like the happiness we're feeling right now. And we're really blessed and feeling very thankful to be in this spot. So, oh, lastly, I will say too, first trimester, we found out the gender, as you guys saw. If you are new here, I'll put the gender reveal up here, but we found out we are having 2 girls, which after 2 boys is like mind-blowing. I'm still wrapping my mind around saying her and she and shopping girls stuff, and it's this whole world that I truly didn't think I would like be a part of. I've always wanted a daughter. Like I, you know, grew up a only child little girl, and I always wanted to have a little girl of my own, but I like was fully embraced in boy mom life, and I was okay with that. And when we found out it was twins, I like was mentally ready to have 2 more boys. Like I was like, cool, I might have 4 boys, and I might be like, you know, boy mom to the fullest. And I was really prepared for like any outcome. I had read some stats that like the majority of fraternal twin pregnancies are boy girl, and so I kind of had like thought that's what it was. Like I could see myself having 1 more boy and then maybe having a girl this time. I don't know, you know, you start to overthink everything like that. When we went to that 12-week ultrasound, the ultrasound tech was like, you know, do you want to hear my guess for gender? At that point, we were still waiting on our blood work results. So we did the NIPT test at 10 weeks. And at that point, I was really excited to get those results back, because it would relieve me of a lot of the stress genetics-wise of any potential issues and chromosome-wise, but also we would find out the gender, which would be really exciting. They recently made it a state program in California. It's different in every state. When I announced that we found out via the blood work, I got so much like an influx of information about how it works with twins and what people thought that meant for us. It's different across every state. Like even on the baby boards I'm a part of, like my experience getting my blood work in California was so different than somebody's experience in like Minnesota getting their blood work at the exact same time. But in California, it's part of the state now, so it's free, which is nice, but it took forever. It took 3.5 weeks to get our test results back, which it's never taken that long for us. Like when we used to have to pay out of pocket for it, we would get it back in like 5 to 7 days. This time it took a really long time, which was nerve-wracking. And in the meantime, we went to our 12-week appointment. We are still waiting for our blood work results, but the ultrasound tech was like, do you guys want to know my guess at the gender? And I was like, yeah, if you have a guess, sure, I'll take it. And she looked at baby A and she was like, this area looks flat. The pelvic area looks flat. So I'm pretty sure this one's a girl. And then she looked at baby B and like when she examined baby B, she was like, and this one's looking like a girl too. And I left the appointment, I was like, there's no way we're having 2 girls. Like there's no way. I was shocked, like that'd be amazing. I would love that, but I just never saw myself, like, I don't know, after having 2 boys in a row, I was like, I can't, it was like mind blowing. I have no words. And she was like, confirm with the blood work, like, you know, it's not for sure, but like if I had to give a guess based on how I see it, that's what I would say. But wait for the NIPT, wait for your blood test to confirm. And when we got the blood work back, we did find out it was in fact 2 girls. And again, we were like not 100% shocked because we had heard at the ultrasound that that was a possibility, but I just still was sort of mind blown and am sort of mind blown. Like I'm just so excited, like so grateful. Words don't even have, I don't even have words to explain it, but I like can't believe I'm gonna be a twin girl mom. It's like I can't even get the words out. We're very, very happy about it. And the boys have been so sweet. Christian is very excited for the babies. Even this morning he was up like kissing my belly. He keeps saying he thinks he can hear them. And I can't wait for him to be able to feel them. He felt Arlo in my tummy, but I don't know if he remembers that. And so we've been showing him those videos and kind of explaining to him he'll be able to feel the baby kicks one day. And he is like the sweetest big brother. He loves the baby's room. He talks about the little girl's room. Arlo is a little bit more like coming around to the idea of it now, but at first he was like not about it. Like we like don't talk to him about the babies. Even his teachers were like, yeah, let's like, we won't mention it to him, because when I first got pregnant, and we first told them we were having 2 babies, he just like had kind of a hard time with it. He would say things about the babies that were not great, and he was kind of acting out of school or would be really emotional and stuff. And so Arlo's gonna come around to it eventually, but right now he is very much the baby and he wants to continue being the baby. And so the other day he told us he was worried, he didn't want the babies to grow up and get bigger. So I think he's worried that like we'll have new babies and then it's like more siblings for him to compete with. So we explained to him, you know, they're never gonna be bigger than you and you're gonna be bigger than them. And I think he was worried the babies would come out and be like, you know, another big sibling kind of teasing him all the time, which is something like I wouldn't even think about that, but of course he's 2.5. That's how he thinks. So it's been really sweet to see their reactions and have a lot of conversations with them about the babies and involve them a lot. And, you know, we've been talking to them about how we're gonna have 2 little girls for them. We do have 2 names picked out already. Well, I may or may not share those. I don't know. I go back and forth. Initially, I think we'll probably share them later, maybe once we have middle names picked out. But then I also get kind of scared because I just like don't really want like unwanted negative attention on them. Like I'd rather, part of me wants to wait until they're here and announce it like when we can't take it back and people can't get in my head about it. And part of me wants to just like put it out there because these are their names and this is what we refer to them as. And, you know, we talk about them openly by their name in the house, and which is really fun. One girl name we have had picked out our whole relationship, like since before I got pregnant with Christian. Like when we were dating, when we first got married, we talked and we were like, if we have a boy, we'll name him Christian. If we have a girl, we'll name her this. And so we're using that name for baby A, and baby B we also picked out a girl name for. So we have 2 first names now, but we do not have middle names yet. That's been a bit of a struggle. So I'm glad we have a few more months to figure that out. But yeah, we're super happy. I'm getting the nursery ready. I'm trying to do as much as I can now while I'm feeling really good, because I know it'll get harder later on, the bigger and the more uncomfortable I get. But for now, things are moving along good, and I will definitely keep you guys updated. I have my anatomy scan in a couple weeks, so I'll share that as well too. But yeah, I think that's everything for today. I know I talked a lot, so sorry for kind of the word vomit, but it just feels good to be able to sit down and like chat with you guys and catch up. So I hope you enjoyed the recap video. Let me know if you would prefer more frequent updates as I get further along, or just what you want to see in general, and I'll keep you guys updated. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.